Okay, and today is June 23rd, 2011. We're at the World Center Marriott in Orlando, and the name of the person being interviewed is Chris Noel. And Chris, if you don't mind, when is your birthday?
July 2nd, 1941.
Okay.
Now you could figure out how old I am.
And the people who are attending the interview are myself, Carlton Cartwright. I'm the Executive Director for the Children's Coalition Incorporated. I don't think there's anyone else.
Yes, there's a nice man there in the back. He's putting together things on a...
He's just passing through.
Yeah.
Okay, we said the organization, and what type of work did you perform during your service period?
All right. I was the first woman since World War II to broadcast on Armed Forces radio and television service. And that started in 1966.
Okay.
And my first trip to Vietnam was at Christmas time, 1966. And I did that through 1969. And my radio show stayed on the air till March of 1971.
Well, you just covered where and what war, which
Yes,
is fine.
I did.
It's fine.
Yes, and my show was worldwide, all throughout the world, wherever we have, throughout the free world, wherever we had troops, even undersea. Can you imagine under the water in Alaska?
They were able to see your show.
Well, they could hear it on the radio somehow or another. And then because I would get letters from
Really?
the Navy and various people that were serving on a ship underwater, and they would tell me that they could actually they had a way that they could hear my radio show. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. Chris, where were you born and raised?
I was born in West Palm Beach, Florida, St. Mary's Hospital, and I was raised across from what we called Palm Beach High School. I went 12 years to that school, plus a few months of kindergarten in one school. Can you imagine?
Right.
So cool.
Okay.
Great life.
Can you tell us more about what was your family background?
My dad was a wanderer. He loved women. So my mother finally had enough of it, and she divorced him. And she married a young man from the Coast Guard when I was 4 years old. He was my stepdad, and he still is. Right now, he's 91. And we never had very much money, because here he is getting out of the military, and he's married a woman with 2 little girls to take care of us. And there were times when my stepfather had 3 jobs. He would work for the town of Palm Beach building their roads. Then he would be doing some private work on the sides, building driveways, etc., and driving taxi cabs on weekends and at night. And just so that I could take my baton twirling lessons and do little extra things in school. I had a fabulous childhood. I was one of the very, very fortunate ones to have my mom and stepdad stay together. My mom would be there after school. In fact, she said she was so happy we finally moved, because she says, "Oh, you were bringing kids over all the time that needed things. Their mothers weren't around, they couldn't find their fathers, and they were in trouble, and they had just fallen and hurt themselves, and it wasn't like you could call ambulances back then. You had to dress the little wounds and stuff and help them." And my mother, she says they tried to keep buying Band-Aids. Even though we had a school nurse, somehow they always ended up at my house. My mom was always taking care of them.
You mentioned where you went to school. What was your additional educational background? You say you went to where? Palm Beach?
Palm Beach, yes, it was called Palm Beach Elementary, Palm Beach Junior High, and Palm Beach High School, and that's where I went to school. And then I went right from there. At 16, I was on the cover of Good Housekeeping magazine. I started out as a little model. I knew exactly what I wanted. A woman came into our home economics class, and she showed us how to how to model the little dresses that we had made. So I sewn up a little dress, and I got to model my little dress, and I was fascinated by her. And I ran home, and I went, and I didn't have to run far. And I ran home, and I said, Mom, I know what I want to do. I want to be a model. So my graduation present from junior high to high school was a course in a modeling school. Well, after about a year, believe it or not, I was teaching at the modeling school. Then I became director of the modeling school. And by 18, I had my own modeling school in another city. And the way I figured out how to do it is I went to a dance studio. And I rented time from the dance studio, used their address, and that's where I had my little modeling school.
Where was Palm Beach? Where were those schools that you went? Where were they? What city were they in? Palm Beach.
In West Palm Beach.
Okay. What school is that today, or what area is that today?
Oh, it's called, it's a performing arts center. They were going to tear it down. You know, I get so mad at new people coming in from the north.
High School of the Arts?
Yeah, it's High School of the Arts.
Okay, Crabbe Center.
Yes.
Right.
You know, they come into the town and they want everything to start from the moment they walk into town. They want to tear down all your history, you know. But boy, we fought it.
Wasn't that Twin Lakes at one time?
Yes, it was Twin Lakes. But we fought of keeping the history there, and it was because the school was beautiful. It was fabulous. We didn't even have air conditioning when I was in school. We didn't have to. We had the Gulf Stream that went by. We had the beautiful breezes that came up on the hill.
Right.
I mean, there actually is a hill in South Florida.
Right.
And we were on it. But, you know, as I said, I had a great childhood. I really did. I twirled my baton. I studied with national champion 10 years undefeated. He would come in from Miami and give me private lessons, and then I started becoming one of his teachers. Then I became director of the twirling club, and then, like I said, and now at 18 I had my own charm and modeling school. So I guess you could say I was a pretty focused kid.
Okay, what is your current occupation and current address?
I live in Florida. I live in my same hometown. I came back to my own hometown as having lived in various places in the country.
Right.
And I currently, I'm an author. I've written 2 books. My new book just came out, and called Confessions of a Pinup Queen. We'll get to that in a minute as to why it's named that, if you'd like. I have a shelter for homeless veterans for 18 years. I've been running my shelters, and I've had all the ups and downs, how to raise the money. It's like you have to work all the time. You run the shelter, and then you have to work trying to figure out how to do something else to make money, to pay for everything. So it's like it's constant work.
You run these shelters now?
Yes.
Okay.
I have my own. It's called Vetsville Ceasefire House. Ceasefire comes from the name of a movie I did with Don Johnson. That's how I came up with that. And then Vetsville is like a community. That's what that means. And so we call it the Ceasefire House, but the program is called Vetsville. It doesn't matter. People can call it anything they want. I just love helping people, and I helped a lot of people on the road, and when they really needed a boost, and I always like doing that. There's something in my spirit. And when I was a child and I went to Sunday school, I kept remembering something about the thing about if you have charity, you have, and I kept asking, but I don't understand what charity means. What is it? It means love. Well, so you're saying if you have love, you know, so love and charity are supposedly what she taught me in the Bible means the same thing. So I just always felt that you should be good to people, and I you know, it's like what you reap, you sow. I so totally believe in that. If you do good, good stuff will come back to you. And it's not going to come from where you did the good. I can tell you that. It never comes from where I do the good. I do the good, and then I never hardly ever even hear from the people again. But good stuff comes from elsewhere. And it's all of a sudden I'll say, oh, we're so broke. What am I going to do to keep my charity going, keep festival going? And the next thing you know, some little miracle will come from someone will send a $5,000 check to us or something, you know. You just never know where it's going to come from. And I just believe do unto others as you want them to do unto you. That's just the way I live my life. I just choose to do it that way. And it makes my life very simple, even though it's very complicated. Still makes it simple.
Gotcha. At the time of the war, were you in a relationship, married or single?
I was definitely single.
Okay.
I had no inclination toward marriage. I had great boyfriends. I had a great boyfriend. And then I had another great boyfriend. But I was definitely single. I didn't live with anybody. I had my own place. I always believe in having your own place when you're a woman. You never know when you're going to need it. And so anyway, when I started going to Vietnam, I was very, very happy to have been invited to go. I was invited by a telegram sent by the Pentagon to Armed Forces Radio in Hollywood asking if Chris Noel would go to Vietnam to cheer up the troops.
Right.
And I was overwhelmed with happiness because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was happy. And the very first time I went there, I was stunned. The only thing I got from anybody in the government was, get all your shots. This is where you go. I did that. Be at this airport at this time, which I did, and take a Santa Claus type outfit. Well, me in a Santa Claus outfit, that didn't seem right, so I found a miniskirt, a silver miniskirt on Hollywood Boulevard where all the little hookers go and buy their clothes. But I saw this little outfit in the window and I went, woo, that's a cute little outfit. I think that the men over in Vietnam are going to really like that silver. So I got my little silver outfit. That was my little Christmas outfit.
Okay.
And I took the miniskirt to South Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Yes, I was an innovator in fashion. I took it to Thailand, to Japan. That was interesting because I had always heard that the Japanese men liked the women to walk behind them. Well, that didn't happen with me. I didn't have to walk behind anybody. You don't know what to say, do you?
These things are always a learning experience for me.
I know I'm not supposed to be so funny, or flippant, I guess you'd say. I guess I am a little flippant tonight, sorry.
That's fine. You're doing just great. Did you have any children at any time during the war?
No, but I had lots of stepchildren. I married men with children.
Okay. Where did you live and work during the war? While you were
In Hollywood. In Beverly Hills.
Okay, but when you were in when you visited, how long were you in? When you did the show, did you the radio show? Mm-hmm. Where were you?
My show was taped in Hollywood, California,
okay.
And then it was put on to records. There was a record company that made the records, took it from tape and put it on records, and then the records were sent out throughout, like I said, to Armed Forces Radio and throughout the free world, and that's how they would play them on a plain old record player. Mm-hmm. In a studio, wherever it was, and that's how we did it back then.
Okay, well, speaking of that, I'm going to just run through a few of these and just stop and think that you just go ahead and talk about it.
Okay.
Because it's all connected to the work that you did with the radio show, sure. I believe. Mm-hmm. So it was, where did you live and work during the war? What was your main wartime activity? Were you employed outside the home? In industry? Why did you choose that activity?
Okay.
What kind of training were you given? What was your title?
Okay. So here we go.
There you are.
I was living in Hollywood. When I first went to Hollywood, I had gone to Universal. They put me under a 6-week contract. And then I went up to casting and I had to do a monologue, and the woman practically kicked me out of the office and told my agent, send that girl back where she came from. She has no talent. The worst voice I've ever heard. Just send her back wherever she came from. So I cried a lot and got that little anger thing going in me that goes, I'll show him. 3 weeks later, I was under contract to MGM. And it was wonderful. In my mind, I was under contract to the greatest motion picture studio ever, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, and there I was, at the very end of the contract players, and the end of the glamour era, and I was very, very happy to have been included. I mean, I'm in the big MGM book and all of that stuff, and even now when I think about it, it's exciting that I made it. And I did a lot of movies for MGM, a lot of television shows, a lot of big stuff. And a couple of times I was loaned out to do a picture with Steve McQueen, where I played his girlfriend. And I did actually the movie with Elvis Presley. Yes, we did do that at MGM on the set. And I did Bewitched, Perry Mason, My Mother the Car, Love on a Rooftop, Mother's Brother Show, Hollywood Palace, 2 Johnny Carson shows, Merv Griffin, Phil Donahue. I did the talk shows throughout the country, and on all the shows that I did on television, it always would say guest star Chris Noel. So, you know, I had my little billing there, and I was very happy. I was, even at one point, I was in what's called the A group of Hollywood, with the Minnellis and the Bloomingdales, and I was invited to their very fancy dinner parties. Because the women knew that I was never going to threaten anybody with taking their husbands away and messing around with them. And I was a very nice, proper little girl sitting there at the table with everybody, learning and listening to them, and with all their worldwide experiences. And so I was very honored. And I had an opportunity to go with the Governor Brown of California and several celebrities, and we went to the Letterman Balboa hospitals in San Francisco and in San Diego. And we had to cover ourselves up, and we had to wash really good and put booties on and stuff, because we went into the gangrene ward of double and triple amputees. Now, when we first walked in, there were some guys sitting in that ward that were pretty angry that we were there. They were angry at us. And then Sandy Koufax came in, and there was a guy in the back with only one arm, and he held up his one arm, and he was going, "Sandy, Sandy, throw me the ball." And Sandy looked at him, and he said, "You want the ball?" And he threw it at him, and the guy caught it. And the place, they hollered. Then they became very happy. They were happy that we were there. And I saw for myself the difference it makes in life when people are sad and they're hurting and they're in pain, that somebody cares about them and says something nice to them, acknowledges them, and allows them to know that, yes, your life matters. And so when I went out in the hallway, I was very numb. Sandy was in front of me, and he was crying. And other stars were all around doing whatever they were doing. But I saw Sandy, and I was watching him, and I felt very numb, and I said a prayer to God. And I asked him to let me make a difference in the world, and to make a difference, and to find some way to send me to Vietnam, and let me make a difference with the troops over there. And a few months later, I got a message that they were looking for somebody to put on Armed Forces Radio. So I said, "I'd like to go. Can you set me up an appointment?" And I went, and I'm the girl that got it. And by getting that job on the radio, which I had never done radio before, ever, I was shocked that they actually asked me to do it. Mm-hmm. And when I would ask them, they would say, "Because you just sounded like the girl next door. You laughed, and you were like the girl next door, and that's what we want those guys to hear over there." So that was pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. Then I said I wanted to go to Vietnam. Well, here I am. I don't know where I dream up these things that this is going to all happen to me, but believe it or not, almost all my dreams have come true. I set my dreams as a priority, and they pretty much come true in my life. Whoever would dream I would write 2 books, much less even one. Right. And my books are good. You know, I mean, that's an example. Are you kidding? I couldn't write. I could barely even write a letter, you know. I write words. My girlfriend used to say, "I love your letters." I go, "Why?" "All I do is write a bunch of words." And she says, "No, but that's what you do. You just write these little words, you put dot, dot, dots, and write more words, dot, dot, dots." And you just told me a whole lot of stuff. And you've done it in such a short period of time. I said, "Well, yeah, that's kind of the way I am. I don't like to use long words." And a lot of adjectives and stuff, you know. And my book's kind of like that also. But anyway, I mean, that's what happened to me. I wanted to go to Vietnam. I said, can you ask Bob Hope if I could go with him? Because I knew he knew me, because I had been on 3 of his shows. I was a Hollywood Deb star, and he was the host for that, so he knew me from that. He knew me.
Okay.
And I was turned down because I wasn't a big enough star. And so I said, well, I still want to go. Next thing I know, in comes this telegram. Will Chris Noel go to Vietnam? And that's how it happened. That's how it all happened.
And who did the telegram come from? The government?
From the Pentagon.
From the Pentagon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so...
'Cause they went, we got a telegram from the Pentagon, Chris. Come here. I'm going to read this to you. I said, what's the Pentagon? It's this shaped building that goes like this, and they make all these war decisions and stuff. And I went, really? I got a letter from them? What do they want? I mean, I was really naive,
Right.
you know. I didn't know very much. I just knew how to be an actress.
Okay. What did you... Chris, what did you like or dislike about that work? You know, I don't know, you performed, so I guess we're specifically talking about the entertainment.
I disliked the cocky officers. If they had cocky attitudes, I gave it back to them. And then they would say that officers would like for me to come, and I was supposed to have dinner with them, and I would say, no, I'm not going. And they go, but you have to go. And I go, no, I don't have to go. I came to do this. From the very beginning, I said, I will go to Vietnam as long as I get to eat with the men and get to sleep with them, because they put me in a nice hotel when I first went there, and I wouldn't stay there either. I just sat on the bed waiting for them to come and get me for dinner, and I said, I'm not staying here. And they said, but you have to stay here. No, I'm not staying here. You find a place for me with the troops. That's where I stay. Right. And they did. They found another nice place for me, and I was just fine. I said, no, I came here to be with the troops, not to be in a building with all Vietnamese. Not one person speaks any English in this building, and that's not why I came here. So somehow or another, I was able to hold my head up high and assert myself, but in a lot of other times I wasn't able to. For me to assert myself like that was pretty amazing, because I've never really been that much of an assertive personality. I'm the one that if you go to a party, you'll find me over in the corner with a book most of the time, or sitting over there just watching everybody else. It took me a long time to even come down to this reception. It's very hard for me. You know, I have to do everything by myself. And, you know, I have to carry my luggage by myself, get on airplanes by myself, you know, go here by myself. And it's not easy.
Okay, were there any special rules or conventions that you had to follow? And did you work with anybody? With whom did you work?
No, not until I got in trouble, and then I found out what the rules were. You know, like one time I went out to the 1st Infantry Division, out to where the howitzers were. They were firing the howitzers. And there were the photographers from AP, Associated Press, and they said, you know, it's just like, you know, Chris, come over here, pull this lanyard, you know. And then, of course, I get all of this nice little coaxing from the Associated Press going, oh, boy, now we're going to get a good picture. Like me, I don't know anything. So I go, well, what do you mean you want me to pull the lanyard? Well, this thing is ready to fire, and you have to pull the lanyard. Here's your earplugs. And you pull the lanyard. So now afterwards, I asked them, I said, well, what did we just do? Did we shoot anybody? And they said, well, no, we're just shooting it over to a suspected VC village. And I went, uh-huh. Next thing I know, it's on the cover of the newspapers throughout the world. And a doctor in France got a hold of whoever it was in Washington, D.C. Got in touch with the colonel in Saigon. I got called in from the field someplace and sit in front of this colonel who I hadn't even met yet as he starts in telling me that I have to stay with the Geneva Convention, and I'm never allowed to touch a weapon, and much less fire it. And I go, well, sir, how was I supposed to know when everyone's telling me to do it? How am I supposed to know what I'm not supposed to be doing when no one's told me what I'm not supposed to be doing? He says, all right, you could stay, but you cannot do any of these things anymore. Unless your escort officer tells you you can, you cannot. So I got in trouble, and I learned that I wasn't even supposed to touch a weapon.
Right.
So, and to me, I kept saying, but they were firing it anyway. What difference did it make? No, you cannot do that. You are a civilian. You're not allowed. So I had to learn everything. I learned everything the hard way.
Okay. Okay. Were you in a union at the time?
Yes, I was in the Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. Right. I was a professional.
Okay. Were you an organizer?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
How did you feel about the unions?
How did I feel about the unions? I
Yeah.
love my union. Are you kidding?
Okay.
Without my union, I still wouldn't have money today, and I wouldn't have a pension. My
Did you-
little union has my acting profession has supported me my whole life. Because and it absolutely took care of me when I got older. Even my insurance is through Screen Actors Guild. I love my union. But that doesn't put me in the politics of all other unions and everything that's going on in today's world. That, I love my union.
Right.
Just like in the war, when people would come to me and interview me all the time, go, are you a hawk or you're a dove? And I'd look at them and I'd say, don't ask me that. Don't do that to me. I do what I do for, I do it for those lonely people out of there that are having to fight for our country, whether they want to be there or not, whether they were drafted or whether they joined the service. They have horrible jobs they have to do. And I do what I do for them, not to support, you're a hawk, you love war, and you're a dove and you hate war, so you all hate each other. That's not where I am. I'm right here smack in the middle, taking care of those people. That's what I do.
Did you develop friendships during your training or the activity itself? During the...
I have so many friends. I mean, once I start talking to Vietnam veterans throughout this country as time has gone on, I am overwhelmed by my friends. I've been nominated at a petition to go to the president for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And when I take a look at the names that are on there, and I see thousands of names of people that I've never even met, and they've signed a petition, put their name there, and why they think I deserve this award. That makes me, I go, wow, I don't even know this person, and look what this person said. This is amazing, How can you not love that? That.
Did you have family or friends in the service?
No.
Or doing war work that you knew of?
No.
Okay. All right. How did you feel about the war?
Okay, here we go again. I personally think that war is hell. And I think sometimes you have to have war in order to have peace. That's how I feel about war.
Okay. What were your family or friends' feelings?
My family, in their way, they were supportive. They never said anything bad to me. In fact, years and years later, I saw actually just a few years ago, and I said to my mom, Mom, weren't you always kind of nervous and upset when I would go off to Vietnam all the time? And she said, no. I said, really, Mom? Why? I met so many people, their mothers would cry every day, and they were hysterical and all kinds of stuff. Why? She says, because I knew that God would protect you. I knew you were in the right hands. I said, that's very good, Mom. I said, because that's how I felt. I always felt I was in good hands. I'm okay. I've got all, I've got all these real strong, warriors that are around me. They don't want anything bad happening to me. They don't want it happening to them either, And they did everything they could to keep me safe.
Did you live with family, friends, or coworkers during this period?
During the Vietnam War, I lived in Beverly Hills with 3 other roommates. We had a beautiful house in Beverly Hills.
Okay. In what way did the war change your activities or habits?
Oh my gosh, I'm very much the same person, but in another way, I'm a lot deeper than I used to be. I express my emotions much more easily than I used to. I used to think I wasn't allowed ever to be angry, and I you know, I kind of through my work learned how to put a happy face on. So even when I was sad, when I was in Vietnam and horrible stuff happened around me and stuff, I somehow or another was able to keep a pretty decent attitude so that it would transfer to other people, you know, hoping that I could make somebody else feel a little bit better. So I learned pretty much how to do that. I don't know if I do that so much now. Now it's just like I'm not that way as much anymore. But I understand people. I think that's why I'm really good at my work with homeless veterans, because I really understand what it's like to have nothing. I grew up with nothing, really. But I ended up with everything. And I know what it's like to be in pain. I have post-traumatic stress disorder, so I know what it's like to have that, and all the work I've done to keep myself under control and to keep myself in a good space. I've had to work very, very hard. And I do it so that I can help other people, you know, feel saner, because sometimes you don't feel like you're very sane. And I've learned that it's okay to go up to somebody who has some kind of an injury that you can see and talk to them and even talk about it. It's okay. I mean, they're living with it. So, you know, I think I've always had a tendency when I see someone in a wheelchair to look away and avoid them, or one time I was in Taos, New Mexico, and I was with this young man, and he said hello to this homeless guy that went by, and I said, "Do you know him?" He says, "No." And I said, "Well, why did you say hello to him?" He says, "Because he's a human being." So, you know, that kind of like made me think. And, you know, I've helped a lot of people on the streets. I walked up to them and handed them food to eat, and sometimes I've given them money, and, you know, I've done various things. I've taken a lot of people off the streets, and I've helped a lot of people on the streets. And I found, in my world, it's very natural. In other people's world, it's not natural at all. They don't understand. And I go, well, you know, maybe that sandwich I just gave that guy, maybe the only thing he'll have to eat today, maybe he didn't have anything yesterday. And maybe it'll just be enough substance to get through the night, you know? That's how I look at it. And I choose to be this way. Sometimes I'll see what I've done, and I look at my purse, and I don't have any money left, and I go, oh my gosh, you gave him the last of your cash. You know, and I'll see what I did, and I go, I'll think about it, and I go, well, it's okay, it was worth it. And I'm okay. I'm always okay. Now, don't you go and stand on the street corner and wave at me when I go by. No, they started calling my name on the streets in my hometown, and I went, I think that maybe I better stop this.
Were you or others in your community treated differently because of your gender? It goes on to say ethnicity, race, or other factors.
Oh, look, I'm a woman, you're a black man. You're going to get what you get. I get what I get. I'm blonde. I've heard the dumb blonde stuff. You've heard your stuff. I think it's humanity, and especially it's the cruelty of the young kids to each other is like horrible what they do. And some of them grow up with that same mentality. You know, they don't understand that we're all different. You get to know somebody, and they're going to have different thinking than you have in some areas. Does that make them a bad person? No. I love talking to people of all different kinds of thinking, as long as they don't start pushing at me. You know, I don't care if you're gay. You know, I don't care what you do when you're in your private. Just leave me alone. That's how I feel about it. People do not bother me. I think that people should be able to live their own lives, however they found a way that they could do it, without hurting other people.
Okay. The next part, but you answered it already, was, if so, how did you or others react? I think we just covered
Well, they
that.
hated me in Vietnam.
Okay.
I mean, not in Vietnam, in Hollywood.
Oh.
Oh, I got a lot of stuff hitting me. I had one director say to my agent, they were very interested in me for a film, and they went, wait a minute. Is that chick that goes off to Vietnam all the time? Hell no, I don't want her in my movie. Well, you know what? It came back to me and I shrugged it off, you know. But now when I think about it, sometimes it hits my head, and maybe I might think about it and I go, oh, I wish I knew who that was today. Right. You know, I'd like to smack them, you know.
Yeah, I hear you. Get angry about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny it, but no, there were a lot of people who did not like me because I didn't follow their agenda. And Jane Fonda and I've had it out. And that wasn't too terrific either. Because in front of this women's group, and I don't think anything good happened from that at all. I don't think anybody that was sitting there understood one single thing I said. They were just sitting there with their admiring Jane. She could do no wrong. It was like none of them understood the difference of honor and loving your country and integrity. And they felt that everything she said was right on.
Okay.
It's interesting. When you look back at it, none of it means, what's the expression? Don't mean nothing.
Still matters. Anyway, what were some of the first changes in your life after the war started?
I cried all the time. I started crying a lot. I didn't know what was wrong with me. Well, also it had to do with the fact that my first husband was a Green Beret, killed himself. So I think the combination of all the stress of going back and forth to Vietnam and all of that, and then having him kill himself, I think it was just so incredibly stressful for me that I had a real hard time for several years. But as time goes on, everything gets a little bit better. If you choose for it to be better, you just keep saying, I'm going to make it better, I'm going to make it better. I'll find something else to do with my life. And, you know, just keep moving on, you know, move on. Things are really horrible. Do what you can, get away from it, and move on.
What different responsibilities did you have to take on?
These questions don't do good with me, do they?
No, you're doing, as far, I think it's been fantastic.
Well, how do you answer that question? What's the question again?
Okay. What different responsibilities, did your responsibilities change after the war started?
Well, you
I
mean
mean, you
after
just told me about the tragedy that you went through.
Well, yeah, after I started doing what I was doing, my responsibilities definitely changed because I had choices to make. Was I going back to Vietnam when I told them I was going back in August when nobody wanted to go? Or was I going to do that movie that I was supposed to, that they had asked me to do in August? And I'd have to take and I'd have to make my decision. Before I got involved in Vietnam, everything I did was in show business. Just don't mess with me on anything else. I was focused on show business. That's how come I did so well and did so much. I did a lot in a very, very short time. People have a whole lifetime trying to accomplish what I accomplished in just 1 year in Hollywood. And so I was very, very focused. And then when I started becoming involved in the Vietnam War, then I became very focused with my work there. I mean, I would go in because, you know, if I was going on another trip to Vietnam, that means I was taking weeks away from the studio. I'd have to go into the studio, and I'd have to do 10 shows a day, 10 55-minute shows a day. I was getting so burned out. Plus, I'm not a person who really, I am now, but I wasn't back then, that could just pick up a subject and talk. I would just say, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to say? It was very hard for me, very painful. It was dreary. It was so difficult because I found myself finding it harder and harder to be cheerful and happy. It was very difficult, and yet that's what I had to continue to figure out how to do. And So yes, things change. Events change your life. They will. But it doesn't have to destroy your life. Events change your life, and they make you have another perspective on things, and they make you stronger. And I mean, that's my belief. I mean, I have met guys that have were beaten up so bad in Vietnam. I mean, I just don't even know how they have the desire to live when I see some of them. And they'll look at them with the most beautiful, bright smile, and and I'll look at them and I'll go, how do you stay so positive? And usually the word comes back, G-O-D.
Okay.
Usually that's what comes back to me. They have a faith and hope.
What social activities were you involved in at work or after work with coworkers?
That doesn't fit with me. Okay. I don't fit with your questions. I don't fit with your questions.
No, it just, if you did, you did. If you didn't, you didn't.
No, I maybe I'm self-absorbed.
No,
But I'm the kind of a person that does what I do, and then I can't wait to go to sleep.
Okay.
I'm usually very tired.
Okay.
Especially now that I'm getting older, I'm tired all the time.
When you were doing the work that you were doing during the war, how did you entertain yourself outside of work? What was your recreation?
Keeping my really good girlfriends. My roommates were never against me or what I did. We just never talked about it. I did what I did, they did what they did, and then we all like each other. We're all still friends today. We're still really good friends. And we get along real good. And, I mean, occasionally I would have a date with somebody and go to a nice dinner, or go to a premiere, or a little party. I never last long at parties. I don't know. I was always very, very busy when I lived in California. Again, or else I wasn't. I just wanted to sleep. I'd get on a plane coming back from Vietnam. I'd get on a plane, and I would almost go unconscious. I always sat by a window so I could just go boom. Mm-hmm. And it was hours. Then we always used to stop in Manila. And then they started making me get off the plane. And I remember the first time they made me get off the Clark Air Force Base. They made me get off the plane. And I begged them, please, no, we're reviewing, ma'am. You have to get off the plane. I always stay on the plane. Please don't make me get off. No, ma'am, you have to get off the plane. So I had to get off the plane. Everybody was all off. Finally, I got off the plane, and I was just whipped. Mm-hmm. I was whipped. And I just couldn't wait to get back on the plane. It's like I can never remember coming back. I can never remember anything ever happening on the planes coming back. Not at all.
Okay.
I just...
Did you ever worry that our side might not win the war?
No. Okay. And actually, we would have won. We were winning. If we didn't have such foolishness in the White House pulling us out. If we had stayed there for another 3 months, that war would have been won. He already said, whatever his name was, in North Vietnam, whatever it was, he says, we were stunned that the Americans decided to leave. We were stunned because we were getting ready to fold up when we started coming back to the United States. I can't think what his name is right now. I don't do good with foreign names. That's why I could never be a newscaster. People invited me to be a newscaster at stations and stuff. I said, no way. I can't say all these foreigners' names. I would never remember it from the first to the next.
Well, it probably takes a lot of practice, and these people take a lot of notes so they can, be very functional in those kinds of jobs. So I wouldn't worry about that. Did you know anyone who was killed or wounded in the war?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are you kidding? I visited wounded men everywhere I went. Mm-hmm. I held the hand of a man in his dying process.
Okay. Tell me about corresponding via letters or otherwise with friends and family in the service. Did you keep in contact with your family while you were overseas?
No, I had no time.
Okay.
Once in a while, I'd see a cute postcard, or I had a postcard or something, and I could just send a
You'd
postcard
send it.
back. I'm okay. Something like that. Miss you. I told you I write words.
I hear you. You seem to be a very sensitive person.
Highly.
And not shallow at all. And
No,
I'm not patronizing you, but the
No.
interview's going 100 times better than I could have wished.
Well, thank you.
I'm just stopping to say that.
Well, that's very kind of you. I'm a very emotional, highly emotional person, and my sensitivity is one of the things that made me really good on screen. They used to say to me that the camera loved me, and it was because of the fact that I guess I don't know, there was something that the camera could pick up that we don't pick up when we're one-to-one or in groups and stuff. It's I guess it's a different kind of energy, and I think mine has to do with a lot of vulnerability. I mean, people used to insult me by telling me, "Oh, you're just so vulnerable," and you know, and I felt like they were telling me I had cancer, you know, because I didn't understand what they were trying to say to me, telling me I was so vulnerable, like I had this contagious disease, you know, that was
You are
going
a
to give it
cancer.
to them or something. You know what I'm saying?
You are a cancer.
I am a cancer.
Right.
You're right.
But it's genuineness versus shallow.
Yes, I choose to be that way.
Yeah. And I think it's fabulous.
I always have been that way.
But I'm not supposed to say that.
You're not supposed to give any feedback.
But it's too late, so
From
anyway.
one pro to another pro. But guess what? When I was doing interviews and stuff, I found myself interjecting myself too.
Okay. Here's a tough question, okay? And I shouldn't say that. I don't know if it is or not for you anyway. What effect did the war have on your physical and mental health or that of others you knew?
Well, I always admire those of my friends that I know that are suffering from some kind of maybe it was a physical injury or a mental injury that can't be seen, like with post-traumatic stress disorder, and particularly, I mean, I just couldn't believe it when I was told, and I'm going into a psychiatrist, I said, I think I'm crazy, or whatever, and they talked to me for a while, and they just told me, they said, you have post-traumatic stress disorder. What is that?
Surprise.
What do you mean? What do I do to get rid of it? How do I get rid of this? How do I get rid of being scared to death when I have to get up on a stage? Scared to death to do half of what I do. I mean, I'm in panic stricken with most of the stuff that I do in my life, and I don't know how am I supposed to do it. Just do it. You know, I mean, I have cried right before I got ready to go on stage because I was so scared. But somehow or another, I've learned to do it. Now, believe it or not, I've actually become a very good speaker, which is shocking to me. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, well, how should we see you, you know, it was regarding something to do with my life and my work from now on. And my lawyer says all of the above, you know, meaning films, television, promotion, literary, la-di-da-di-da-di-da. And he said, all of the above. And I said, yeah, you know what? I've become a good speaker, too. And I was just shocked that I said that because of the fact that I couldn't open, I used to not be able to open my mouth.
Okay.
You should see me the very first time I came upon, they brought me in, and to, I think we were in an old church that had been bombed in Vietnam. And the guys were in there, and there were still some places where you could still sit. And they're staring at me, and I'm staring at them. I had no idea what to do. Nobody says, now when you come and meet these guys, you know, shake their hands, or why don't you sing them a song, or why don't you do that? Nobody, they just said, they just presented me to a group of warriors. Here they are. Here you are, Chris, go. It was like feeding me to the lions. And I'd stand there, and oh my gosh, it was just... And then I decided to play them a song, and you're not going to believe what I did. Because I brought my little white case with my little 45 records in it. Mm-hmm. I put on this song called When a Man Loves a Woman, You know that song?
Yeah.
And I looked up, and everybody was so depressed. And I'm looking at them again. They're looking down. Everybody's depressed, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I played the wrong song. Now what do I do? So I don't know what I did. I think I laughed and said something. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't know that this song would be such a bummer for you. Let me see if I can find a happier song. Have you ever heard of this song? I didn't know what to do.
Right.
You know, nobody told me how to do anything.
Right. What is that term?
What term?
Ad-lib? You had to
Ad-lib?
be creative?
Yeah.
How did you overcome that?
I just kept ad-libbing.
Okay.
And again, it wasn't in me, but somehow I guess it was in me because I just found a way to do it. That's why when I started giving speeches, you know, when the veterans started doing memorials and stuff, they were inviting me to things all across the country. I just went everywhere. And then I would try to write out my speeches. And I try to write them out, and I go into panic. Total panic. I could not write one word on the page, and I start hyperventilating. And I'm going, oh my God, this is terrible. This is never going to work. And I remember I went to a school to where they were training young people to be officers, and they didn't tell me until after it was over, but they had kept them up all night. And they came in at 3 o'clock in the morning and did one of those things, screaming and yelling at 3 and getting everybody
Right,
up so
yeah.
they, you know.
That special reveille thing.
One of those things,
Yeah.
you know, because they told me afterwards. And on my way to give my speech, I had papers and things that I liked was said, and I was literally creasing them and cutting them out and putting them in order for my speech. Then I asked somebody for some Scotch tape when I got there at this military academy or wherever I was. And I started kind of putting some Scotch tape on them, and that was my speech. I'm so proud of myself because I can't find the speech, but I'm not proud of myself for that because of the fact that all the things that focused in on me that I was tearing out was exactly what those young people needed to hear. And they gave me a standing ovation. And then one of the colonel, I was walking one way, he was going the other, and he said, Miss Noel, I heard your speech. He said, I want to tell you something. That was outstanding. And when I left, and then one of the young cadets came up and he gave me a special pin, non-commissioned officer, something. I can't remember.
Right.
You know?
That's okay.
And I should be real clear on this stuff, but I'm really not. And I was very proud of the fact that, wow, you know what? That was a very good speech that I gave. So then I learned that I do better if I just, before I go out on stage, if I just say a prayer and say, God, tell me what you want me to say, because I don't know. I never know what to say.
Cool. Yeah.
And it seems to work. And it's coming from exactly that word that you just threw out there, that word, ad-lib.
Well, you're spontaneous.
Yes.
Right.
But I had fear. There was a time when I could not be spontaneous. I was a very proper little girl.
Right. Well,
I never stepped out of line and did anything I wasn't supposed to.
so what do you think changed that?
Life.
Okay.
Life changes everything.
And, I'm going to switch gears on you here. Do you think that medical care changed because of the war?
Of course it did.
Okay.
It had to because we forced them to change it. You know, I pride myself in the fact that I've been out there with a lot of groups and stuff hammering and helping to get bills passed that helped the generation of today coming back from war. They're not treated like the Vietnam vets were when and the guys from Korea. They're not treated like that. I couldn't believe when I saw those pictures in Life or Look magazine, and I can't remember if Ron Kovac was in one of them or not, but I mean, with the big giant rat. And the guys used to tell me, well, what they used to feed the rat to keep the rat from biting them. And I know what it's like because I had a rat run over my face when I was a little girl at 4 years old. When I was sleeping, a big rat ran over my face. And I know what it's like to have a rat run over your face. It's pretty awful.
Yeah, sure it is. Sure it is. Okay, did you have worthwhile experiences because of the war?
Of course. Fabulous. Fabulous. Things I will never forget. so worthwhile that they changed certain parts of me and they made me who I am, you know. I mean, knowing the guys in the military, look, they're not all nice guys, okay, but having known a lot of them and having them cry their eyes out in front of me at times when they would first meet me, when I first got out there in about 1980, and I'd go someplace and it seems like everybody, when someone really wants to talk to me, they kind of wait till I'm standing there by myself, and then they come over and they start talking to me. And at that time, guys were real raw in 1980 from the Vietnam War, and they would all of a sudden start talking to me, and they'd say things to me that would blow me away, like you saved my life. First time someone said that to me, I thought maybe, well, gee, you know, he maybe needs a little help, you know. And then I heard it again and again, and finally I started paying attention. I said, why do you think that I saved your life? Why do you say that to me? You know, and then they'd start talking to me, and they'd tell me, and then they'd start crying, and I go, oh my gosh, I mean, this is heartfelt. These men believe this stuff, you know. They're talking to me from their heart. They're trying to explain something to me, a part of them that they felt was lost. And they're trying to talk to me about it. And it's very heart-rendering.
Okay. What was your most memorable experience?
My most memorable experience?
Uh-huh.
Oh, there isn't one, because there's many. There's just so many things. I don't know. I mean, the looks and faces, eyes, people's eyes. I don't know. I mean, I could go and say, well, when I crashed in a helicopter, or when I found out that I had a price put on my head of $10,000, or when I saw a little boy dying. His stomach was huge, bigger than his head because of malnutrition. I could say when I held the hand of the fellow who died right in front of me as I'm holding his hand. I mean, I could go on. I could say all kinds of things, but what it does is it all goes together in a giant circle. It just goes like this.
Right.
And once in a while, you focus in on something for a few moments, and you go, and you know, and I think about it, and I go, whew, oh yeah, you know.
Right.
And it's very hard. It's like I don't ever expect anybody to understand me, because it seems to be that seems to be the case. I mean, I have great friends, and I love my friends, and my friends love me. But there isn't one person who really understands me. I have my graphic artists on my book. He knows a lot about me. He's probably seen every picture taken of me practically. And then a male friend of mine who I've known for a very long time, who in his own world is like out of it. But he, believe it or not, he really knows, he gets me. And my mother does. But I don't think anybody else in my family does. They don't get it.
There were two other parts of that question, and what was your most memorable experience, most memorable character, most humorous experience?
In the very beginning when I went to Vietnam, the very first time I went, it was the funniest, because there were guys that we went off the road in Jeeps when they saw me, because of the fact that they hadn't seen a white girl in a miniskirt.
Okay.
And they hadn't even been visited, they hadn't been wounded, so they didn't see the nurses. And they hadn't even seen the Red Cross girls. Mm-hmm. So that was funny. And it's funny, like I was singing this song called Sunny, and I'd go, Alex, yesterday your life was filled, my life was filled with rain. Bobby, you smiled at me and really da-da-da. Johnny, da-da-dee-da, da-da-da-da. Randy, da-dee-da. No, it's not Randy. It's Robert. Oh, that would be funny. That would be so funny. That would be really, really funny.
Okay.
They would all laugh.
Correct you.
I'd get them all laughing, you know, because I'd say the wrong name, because I'd get their name beforehand,
right,
and then I'd say the wrong name, and they just thought that was just too funny.
Right.
Something so silly like that. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And I'm not a comic. I'm definitely not a comic.
They probably enjoyed the attention.
Oh, they loved that.
Yeah.
They loved it.
Without
yeah.
a doubt. Have you visited any memorials or participated in any commemorations of the war?
Many.
Okay. Right. Was it, okay, no, skip that one. Here we go, all right.
I just got an invitation, actually, it was this weekend. This
Okay.
weekend they're doing it? For the Chicago Parade, 25 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just sent them an email, you know, because I couldn't go to it.
Right.
But 25 years later, they're all getting back together again. Wow, what a great parade that
Really?
was. It was second to the New York City Parade. Amazing.
So, you are a spousal, your spouse was a Green Beret?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you feel you got good support from the service?
Like how?
Well, I mean, after his demise.
Nothing. No, nothing. I don't think they acknowledge suicides.
Okay.
And now I understand that the VA has just set up some sort of a new program for suicides. Well, I mean, I just can't believe all these young people killing themselves. You know, it's like after Vietnam, when my husband killed himself, I started becoming very aware of suicides, and I went to the library to see if there were any books. There weren't any books whatsoever on suicides. Nothing. That word was not even discussed back in back in the 60s, and now. And I thought, well, maybe it's because of Agent Orange and post-traumatic stress disorder. There were so many suicides from the Vietnam War. And then I'm thinking, all right, what's going on today? Okay, they're having the post-traumatic stress disorder, but what else is going on that these young people are killing themselves? So I thought to myself, I even asked the General yesterday, I said, do you think it has to do with the fact that some of them joined the service because of our economy and they couldn't get a job, and now they've given their service and they're out and they still can't get a job? I said, do you think that maybe that might be what's going on now? He said, I don't know. I mean, who does know, you know? But I wish that I could get with some of them and talk to them before they kill themselves. Because I know that there is a life out there. There's a life out there for all of us. No matter what color you are, no matter how fat you are, how skinny you are, how you look, there is a life. You know, my greatest fear in Vietnam was when I would see the young guys in the hospitals with their faces all bandaged up. And I used to feel really bad because some of them didn't have noses, and I just felt really bad for them. And then when I went to Walter Reed Hospital, guess what I saw?
What?
Well, you know, with what's going on in this war, they're so heavily armored, but their head isn't, their arms aren't, and their legs aren't. So those are the things that are going now. The heads are all beat up. Arms and legs are gone. They're protected in other places. Not totally.
Right.
I'm not stupid, you know.
Yeah.
But those are the things that are going the most. And sure enough, lying there, faces all bandaged up, losing eyes and all kinds of things. War is hell.
Okay. Were you comfortable, and did you have a reasonable standard of living during and after the war? And we're almost done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was fine. Everywhere I went, I was fine.
Okay. We answered that one already. I believe, from what you said earlier, you felt that it was right for America to be at war? Or?
I went to see a preacher once. Someone took me into the head, this particular church, to the head preacher. He had kind of anointed me, and he talked to me about that issue. And he said to me, the warriors should never have any guilt. Because I was talking to him about guilt in war.
Right.
He says, because actually, it's the leader of the land that holds the guilt.
Mm-hmm.
If there is any guilt, it should be the leader of the land.
Right.
Because really, basically, what those in war are doing what the leader of the land has told them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they made a vow to be willing to give up their life for their country.
Right.
See, this is what I think people always forget, is that vow, being willing to give up my life if that's what I need to do. There's not many people willing to give up their life for anything. And when you think that all these young people going into the service have made that vow, that's pretty powerful. I think a lot of them have forgot they ever made that vow.
Okay.
In fact, I'm with a group, the National Coalition for Vietnam and Gulf War Veterans.
Uh-huh.
A couple of years ago, we stood up and all remade the vow. And it just stunned me that I was standing up there with them making the vow.
Right.
Going, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this. Making the vow. Whew.
What did you think of the enemy?
The enemy was the enemy.
Okay.
I mean, you have to think that way. You have to be careful. That doesn't mean you can't have some humanity. I mean, this is why I guess, like in wars, if there's, I guess there's always this problem. And okay, now which one are you going to save? You're going to save this, our American who's lying there without his legs and arms, or are you going to help this Vietnamese? Well, I'm the American, so I'm going to help the American. But am I going to leave that Vietnamese there if there's still room for him to? Well, that's why we take him and put him in the helicopter too, and would help him too, because of our humanity. And I can understand why men in war do some of the things that they do. I really can understand it. That's how come I do not get upset when I hear about atrocities. It does not upset me whatsoever, because I understand sometimes how things work.
How did you feel about war news from television?
Unnecessary.
Okay. How did you feel about anti-war protests?
Couldn't stand them.
Did you trust and support American civilian and military leaders?
Not always.
Did you change your views over the span of the war?
No.
Okay. All right. Now we're really getting right down to the last several questions. How did you feel when the war ended?
Grateful.
Okay.
But then when I heard the truth, I got mad. Because we should have stayed 3 more months. Because it made me angry that people kept saying to the vets, you lost the war, you lost the war. That's not what happened. But that's what they got. At the American Legion VFW, they didn't even want the young guys in. We were in the big war. You lost your war. We don't want you. And now they're begging for them.
Okay.
Who's ever going to hear this? Nobody's going to ever listen to this anyway. I can say what I want.
This, you'd be surprised. How would you describe the ways the war changed your life and those of others?
How do I describe it?
Mm-hmm.
I think it turned me into a really, turned me into a really an incredible woman, because I have much more depth and I understand people a lot better, and I understand when bad things happen to good people a lot more than I did. Even though I still wonder, why do bad things happen to good people?
Okay. Here's the last question. Then I'm just going to ask you for your overview. Is there one thought about your wartime experience that you want to share with future generations?
War is hell. But if you're in it, do the best you can and be the best you can be. Always be the best you can be. And always remember to be good to others. Treat people the way you want to be treated. When you're in war, you have an enemy. Yes, that's true. And your job is to take care of the enemy so the enemy doesn't kill you.
and this is at the risk of being redundant, is there anything else I should ask you, / is there anything that you would like to add on this subject?
No, except for the fact that I just really, I really honor our warriors. I mean, I really think that the guys and gals that went to Vietnam, but in particular the best of our generation. And I'd rather be with them if something horrible goes down than anybody else in the country. Because I trust them. Even though, like I said, not everybody, because they're a veteran, is a good guy. But I trust them. Deep down, I trust them.
I can't thank you enough. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.